Hey everybody, this is Michael David Angel, and you are watching the My Human and Me YouTube channel. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, subscribe, and share with others, and join my free Patreon.
NVIDIA just paid $1 billion for what might be the most expensive mistake in telecom history. While every YouTube video is calling this Nokia's comeback story, the deal is quietly falling apart 5 months in. Today, we're breaking down why Nokia's biggest competitor publicly refused the same deal, how major carriers are saying no, and the shocking math that makes this whole thing impossible. By the end, you'll understand what's really happening behind the AI hype and why this billion-dollar bet might already be dead.
So let's dive right into this because the numbers here are wild. Walk me through what actually happened in October.
October 28th, 2025, NVIDIA pays exactly $1 billion for 2.9% of Nokia at $6.01 a share. Nokia stock jumps 26% in a single day. The pitch was electric. NVIDIA chips inside every cell tower on Earth, something called AI RAN, quote, a data center in everyone's pocket.
That sounds incredible on paper. What went wrong?
Well, the telecom industry actually showed up to the meetings. A journalist covering this beat wrote that when he asked telecom executives at a conference in Dublin what they thought of the deal, the response was, and I'm quoting his actual reporting, a mocking belly laugh and the words expensive base stations.
Wait, they literally laughed at it? That's brutal.
That was the moment the wheels started coming off. And here's what nobody on YouTube is telling you. Nokia has one true rival in this market, Ericsson. They're the other Nordic telecom giant. They sell to the same customers. And NVIDIA wanted them in the deal too.
So what did Ericsson say?
Per Narvinger, who runs Ericsson's mobile networks business, said publicly they're not doing it. His exact words, we have been able to offer a better TCO with custom silicon. We don't see that changing rapidly.
TCO, that's total cost of ownership, right? So they're saying they can do it cheaper.
Exactly. And Ericsson's CEO went further. He said, quote, I cannot comment on Nokia's decision, but from my point of view, we wanted a very different strategy, not to select the infrastructure layer today. That is a CEO subtweet in real life.
So while Nokia is locking themselves into NVIDIA's ecosystem, Ericsson kept their options open?
Precisely. Nokia is rewriting all of its core RAN code in NVIDIA's proprietary CUDA language, which means once it's done, Nokia is locked in for a decade. Ericsson kept its options open. Custom ASICs, Intel, AMD, ARM, maybe NVIDIA later. They built what's called a hardware abstraction layer to avoid what one analyst called Nokia's potential state of vendor lock-in.
That's a massive strategic difference. But what about the actual customers, the phone companies?
This is the second thing nobody is telling you. Even if Nokia builds it, the carriers don't want to buy it. Verizon CTO Yago Tenorio said at the Brooklyn 6-gram summit, is there a case for a wide area indiscriminate rollout? I am not sure. He said, don't try to overcomplicate the base station.
Verizon is basically saying, thanks, but no thanks.
Right. BT's CTO said GPUs might make sense in their fixed-line exchanges, meaning the big buildings, not the towers. Orange in France, not sold on AI RAN. Vodafone's Open RAN rollout across Europe is being built on Intel CPUs, not NVIDIA GPUs.
So all the major carriers are going a different direction. But here's what I don't understand. Why are they so resistant to this technology?
Math. Pure math. NVIDIA's Aerial RAN Computer Pro draws around 300 watts. Qualcomm's specialized RAN silicon was hitting 40 watts to do the same throughput 2.5 years ago. That is roughly 7 times more power per cell tower.
7 times more power? That's insane.
EE Times quoted critics calling the strategy powering a Vespa with a V8 engine. That phrase is now being passed around the industry as the standard joke. There are about 7 million cell towers worldwide. Multiply 260 extra watts by 7 million, that's a continent's worth of new electricity demand just to do the same job.
And these companies have been trying to cut energy costs, not increase them, right?
Exactly. Every operator on Earth has spent the last decade cutting network energy costs. Verizon's deal with Samsung last year cut energy 15 to 35%. Nokia's pitch goes the other direction. Plus, the market itself is shrinking. Global RAN spending fell from $45 billion in 2022 to $35 billion in 2024.
So they're trying to sell an expensive solution into a shrinking market. But wait, didn't NVIDIA realize this was a problem?
This is the part that broke my brain when I found it. In March 2026, NVIDIA quietly rolled out a new pitch called AI Grid. The original AI-RAN pitch was NVIDIA chips in every cell tower, 7 million sites. The new AI grid pitch is about 100,000 distributed network data centers worldwide.
Wait, from 7 million to 100,000? That's like a 98% retreat from the original plan.
98.6% retreat, to be exact. Light Reading openly described AI grid as making a lot more economic and technical sense than AI-RAN, which is media language for NVIDIA just admitted the first plan was wrong.
So NVIDIA basically pivoted away from their own deal with Nokia?
The new plan looks suspiciously like what Verizon, BT, and Deutsche Telekom were already doing, sticking GPUs in big central offices, not on telephone poles. And Nokia is the one company that already locked itself into the original plan. Light Reading explicitly calls Nokia NVIDIA's primary conduit to the market. Conduit. Not partner, not winner. Conduit.
That's harsh. But let me play devil's advocate here. Is there any chance this could still work out for Nokia?
Let me be fair to both companies. SoftBank's August 2025 trial was real. 30% uplink throughput gain, 29% downlink in moving vehicles, sub-millisecond latency on actual hardware. T-Mobile US trials start in 2026. Dell'Oro analysts argue AI-RAN could still scale to roughly a third of the RAN market by 2029.
So the technology does work, it's just the economics that are questionable?
Right. And Nokia's CEO isn't naive. He took $1 billion in cash and got NVIDIA's brand attached to a Nokia stock chart that had been flat for a decade. Even if AI-RAN doesn't deploy widely until 2028, Nokia just bought itself 3 years of investor patience and an R&D bankroll competitors don't have.
So it could be a smart financial move even if the technology doesn't pan out exactly as planned?
It's possible this all works. The contrarian case isn't this is doomed. The contrarian case is the market has already moved against the original pitch and the price is in.
You know what's funny? This reminds me of those old Nokia phones that were indestructible. Now they're trying to reinvent themselves, but maybe they're overcomplicating things.
That's actually a perfect analogy. Sometimes the simple, reliable solution beats the complex, cutting-edge one. And that seems to be what Ericsson is betting on.
It's like when everyone was saying the metaverse was the future, and then suddenly nobody talks about it anymore. Sometimes the hype cycle moves faster than reality.
Exactly. And in this case, we can see the hype cycle in real time. NVIDIA's own pivot from 7 million towers to 100,000 data centers tells you everything about how quickly reality set in.
So what's actually happening here? If you had to break this down into the key takeaways, what would they be?
3 things, in order of importance. 1, Nokia is now permanently tied to NVIDIA's roadmap. If GPUs win the RAN war, Nokia wins big. If they don't, Nokia spent 5 years rewriting its codebase for nothing, while Ericsson kept its options open.
That's a massive bet. What's the second thing?
2, NVIDIA has already pivoted from every tower to about 100,000 data centers. The $1 trillion AI factory pitch is now a much smaller, much more boring edge compute pitch.
And the third?
3, the carriers, the people who actually have to write the checks, are publicly skeptical, building energy-saving AI without GPUs, and watching Ericsson very carefully.
So the customers, the competitor, and even NVIDIA itself have all moved away from the original vision. That's pretty damning.
And yet Nokia is still locked into that original vision. That's the real story here. Not whether AI will transform telecom, but whether Nokia bet on the right version of that transformation.
There's also something fascinating about how NVIDIA's own partner, HPE, basically contradicted the whole pitch. Their CEO said phones can already do 40 to 50 billion parameters. You don't need incremental infrastructure overhead.
Right. He's saying your phone can already run the AI. The tower doesn't need to. When NVIDIA's own partner is publicly disagreeing with the strategy, that tells you something about how the industry really feels.
It's like the emperor's new clothes situation. Everyone can see the problems, but nobody wants to say it directly.
Except some people are saying it directly. Ericsson's CEO, Verizon's CTO, BT's leadership, they're all on the record with their skepticism. The industry isn't being subtle about this.
So when you step back from all this, what does it really mean for the future of AI in telecommunications?
AI is definitely coming to telecom, but maybe not in the way Nokia and NVIDIA originally pitched. The carriers want energy efficiency, cost savings, and proven ROI. They're not interested in expensive experiments that increase their power bills.
And the real winner might be whoever figures out how to deliver AI capabilities without the massive infrastructure overhaul.
Exactly. which is why Ericsson's strategy of keeping options open and focusing on efficiency might end up looking brilliant in hindsight.
You know what's really striking about this whole story? It shows how quickly billion-dollar bets can become billion-dollar mistakes when the market doesn't cooperate.
And it shows the importance of listening to your customers. When Verizon, BT, Orange, and Vodafone are all saying no, maybe the problem isn't with the customers.
The power consumption math alone kills this deal. It's like powering a Vespa with a V8 engine, as industry critics are saying. Sometimes the most advanced solution isn't the right solution.
And that's the lesson here. Nokia bet big on being first to market with GPU-powered cell towers. But being first doesn't matter if you're first to solve the wrong problem.
So the next time someone tells you about Nokia's AI comeback story, remember, the comeback narrative is what the press releases wanted you to believe. The real story is that the customers said no, the competitor said no, and NVIDIA quietly cut its own pitch by 98.6%. Sometimes the most important stories are the ones happening behind the hype.
And that's why it's so important to look beyond the headlines and follow the actual money, the actual customers, and the actual technical decisions. That's where you find out what's really happening.